A dream wedding, but just 24 hours later the bride was dead and the groom was in handcuffs. What really happened on that fateful wedding night? Today, we're diving into a shocking case from Texas. Pastor Dion Waverly murdered his wife, Judge Sah Caldwell, just one day after their wedding. A man who preached morality and purity suddenly became a killer. A strong, successful female judge became the victim of her own marriage. Behind this case lies a deep conflict of faith, ethics, and truth, one neither of them was prepared to face. So what was the real reason this marriage ended in tragedy? Was it just a horrifying discovery on their wedding night? Or was there something even deeper, a secret no one saw coming? And most importantly, was this a tragic accident or a crime fueled by disgust and betrayal? Before we dive into the case, don't forget to like this video to support the channel and subscribe so you won't miss the next true crime story. Turn on notifications to get updates as soon as a new video drops. Now let's go back to Texas and uncover one of the most mysterious murder cases of the year. Dion Waverly was not just a pastor, he was a highly influential spiritual leader in Houston, Texas. As the head of New Light Baptist Church, a congregation with thousands of members, he preached about moral values, purity, and the sacredness of marriage. Born into a devout family, Waverly was raised with discipline, faith, and a deep sense of responsibility. He began preaching at just 19 years old and quickly became one of the most respected pastors in the region. To Waverly, marriage was not just a union between two people, it was a covenant before God. He frequently preached about the importance of maintaining purity, living by biblical principles, and resisting temptation. So when he decided to marry, he believed he had found a woman who shared his moral values and faith. Sah Caldwell, 34, was a powerful and highly respected federal judge in Houston. Born into a middle-class family in Dallas, she was intelligent, determined, and fiercely ambitious. From a young age, Caldwell had set one clear goal for herself: success in the legal field. She worked as an attorney before rapidly rising through the ranks to become one of the youngest female judges in Texas. Despite her tough exterior and thriving career, Caldwell was a private person. She had been in several relationships in the past but had never married. Her demanding job left little time for a personal life. When she met Dion Waverly at a charity event, she was drawn to his integrity and sense of duty. For Waverly, he believed he had found a strong, principled woman worthy of becoming his wife. After just 6 months of dating, the couple decided to marry. They hosted a lavish wedding attended by hundreds of guests, including religious, political, and legal figures. The church community and judicial circles saw them as the perfect couple, a protector of justice and a preacher of morality. Everything seemed perfect, but no one could have predicted that just one day later, this marriage would end in blood and tears. After their lavish wedding, Waverly and Caldwell checked into a luxurious hotel in downtown Houston for their honeymoon. It was supposed to be their first night together as husband and wife, a night they had both eagerly anticipated. But instead of a night filled with love and happiness, things quickly took a devastating turn. According to Waverly, the moment they became intimate, he noticed something was off. There was a strange smell. At first, he thought it was coming from the hotel room itself, maybe the bed sheets, the carpet, or the air conditioning. But after a while, he realized the odor was coming from Sah Caldwell. Confused and unsettled, Waverly pulled away. Seeing her husband's reaction, Caldwell decided to confess something she had never told him before. She admitted to having a complicated medical history related to past relationships and a prolonged battle with an infection. For Waverly, this was more than just a confession. It was a betrayal. His entire life he had believed in purity, waiting for marriage, and finding someone who shared his values. Now, he felt deceived. Caldwell tried to reassure her husband, but Waverly couldn't accept what he had just heard. His emotions shifted from shock to anger. He accused her of deceiving him, of pretending to be someone she wasn't. Hurt and furious, Caldwell insisted that her past did not define who she was now. the argument quickly escalated. Waverly, unable to contain his emotions, told Caldwell that he wanted an immediate divorce. Caldwell was shocked and outraged. She blocked the hotel room door, refusing to let him leave. She demanded an explanation, insisting that he couldn't just abandon her that night. The tension in the room reached its breaking point. Caldwell slapped Waverly, and he pushed her back. She lost her balance and hit her head against the sharp edge of the nightstand. She collapsed to the floor, blood seeping from her eye. Panicked, Waverly immediately called 911. When paramedics arrived, they found Caldwell unresponsive. The head injury was too severe. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Houston police arrived at the scene shortly after receiving the emergency call from the hotel. When they entered the room, they found Sah Caldwell lying motionless on the floor, a severe head wound with blood pooling around her. Nearby, Dion Waverly sat in a chair, his hands clutching his head, appearing panicked and seemingly in shock over what had just happened. When questioned at the scene, Waverly insisted that it was an accident. He claimed that during their argument he had pushed his wife away without intending to harm her. He maintained that he never meant to hurt Caldwell and was only trying to defend himself when she became agitated. Investigators began processing the crime scene. There were no signs of forced entry or any indication that a third person had been in the hotel room. All the evidence pointed to a confrontation between the two of them. However, when forensic experts examined Caldwell's body, they discovered bruises on her arms and wrists, signs of a struggle before her death. Waverly also had small scratches on his arms, suggesting that a physical altercation had occurred before Caldwell's fatal fall. Forensic specialists further analyzed the impact of Caldwell's head injury. They concluded that the force of the trauma was more severe than what would typically result from an accidental fall. This raised suspicions that Waverly may have pushed his wife with significant force, potentially strong enough to cause fatal injuries. After gathering enough preliminary evidence, police officially arrested Dion Waverly and took him to the station for further questioning. At first, he continued to insist that it was a tragic accident. But with the forensic findings and mounting evidence, the case was no longer as straightforward as he claimed. Was this truly an accident, or was it an act of violence fueled by uncontrollable emotions? The investigation would uncover the truth. When taken to the police station for questioning, Dion Waverly adamantly insisted that he never intended to harm his wife. In his initial statement, he claimed that the two had engaged in a heated argument after Caldwell revealed her past. As tensions escalated, Caldwell blocked the door, preventing him from leaving. Waverly stated that he only pushed her aside, never imagining that his actions would lead to her death. However, investigators quickly began to question the validity of his account. If Waverly had merely pushed her lightly, how could Caldwell have sustained such severe injuries? Forensic analysis revealed that her head trauma was not consistent with an ordinary fall, but rather with a significant impact. Experts confirmed that such an injury could only have occurred if the victim had been forcefully shoved. Additionally, the autopsy revealed bruising on Caldwell's arms and wrists, indicating that a physical struggle had taken place before she fell. This raised suspicions that the argument may have escalated into a full-blown altercation. Waverly also had small scratches on his arms, suggesting that Caldwell may have fought back before the fatal incident. With this evidence, police believed that Waverly's testimony was not entirely truthful. They suspected that this was not just an unintended push, but rather an act of violence driven by anger and a loss of control. With the forensic evidence gathered, Dion Waverly was officially arrested and charged with manslaughter. Prosecutors argued that Waverly's actions were not merely self-defense, but an act of violence fueled by his inability to accept the truth about his wife. They contended that from the moment he learned about Caldwell's past, Waverly felt betrayed and disgusted, leading to uncontrollable rage. During the trial, the prosecution emphasized that as a pastor and moral leader, Waverly should have exercised emotional control instead of allowing his anger to turn violent. They argued that if not for Waverly's aggressive shove, Caldwell would not have fallen and died. However, the defense presented a different narrative. They argued that this was a tragic accident, not an intentional killing. They pointed out that Waverly had no history of violence and no clear motive to murder his wife. According to them, Caldwell reacted emotionally during the argument, blocking the door and physically attacking Waverly first. In the struggle, he simply tried to get away and accidentally pushed her too hard. The defense also called witnesses, including Waverly's friends and church members, who testified to his gentle nature and lack of violent tendencies. They argued that in a moment of extreme tension, anyone could have an uncontrollable reaction, but that did not mean Waverly intended to kill his wife. The case quickly drew public attention. Some believed that Waverly had been pushed to his breaking point upon discovering the truth about his wife, while others argued that he should have remained calm instead of resorting to violence. The trial stretched on for weeks, with both sides relentlessly presenting evidence and making their case. After weeks of trial, Dion Waverly was convicted and sentenced to X years in prison for manslaughter. While he was not found guilty of intentional murder, his actions in a moment of anger led to irreversible consequences. A once respected pastor, admired by thousands, lost his honor and freedom. A brilliant judge who dedicated her life to justice lost her own life in the very marriage that was supposed to bring her happiness. Both lost everything over one uncontrolled moment of tension. This case didn't just take the lives of two individuals, it left lasting pain in their communities. New Light Baptist Church lost its spiritual leader, while the judicial system lost a remarkable judge. Friends, family, and those who believed in them struggled to comprehend how a seemingly perfect marriage could end in such tragedy. This tragedy serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of understanding and managing emotions. Differences in values and perspectives, if not addressed before marriage, can lead to conflicts that are impossible to resolve. Waverly and Caldwell entered their marriage too quickly, without truly understanding each other's values and pasts, creating a foundation built on risk. More importantly, losing control in a moment of emotional turmoil can alter a life forever. If Waverly had taken a step back to think, if he had tried to regulate his emotions, perhaps everything could have turned out differently. But one moment of uncontrolled anger cost him everything. Marriage is not just about love. It is about understanding, acceptance, and navigating challenges together. If there are past secrets or unresolved conflicts, the best approach is open and honest dialogue rather than allowing them to fester into deeper issues. Seeking guidance from a counselor or a trusted advisor can help resolve conflicts without leading to devastating consequences. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let me know which case you'd like me to cover next. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next case.